Officially.
Listen, wait,
Officially.
I hate to interrupt, but how come I don't get my nickname right, huh?
I said Tom
It's
and
Peter, a.k.a. Uggo D. Thank you very much. Put some respect on that.
All right, what's up, everybody? We're back officially with episode 2 of the BALLBAG podcast. This is your co-host, Peter, aka Not Ghost Stories, and my other host, which would also be a co-host, Tommy, legit, aka Uggo D. Say hi to the people.
Yeah. I like that. I like the sound of that. That's a pretty good intro. I mean, I guess we could say this is 1A, technically, episode. But it's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to be back. Didn't think I'd get the invite back. Sometimes you burn your bridge, you don't know, you move on. But I love it. I love the fact we're here. I love the fact that football season is less than 3 months away. Yeah, you feel that? That tingling? Close. That tingling in your ball bag? That's the name of the podcast. Podcast, not dirty joke.
Shout
podcast.
out.
Yep. It's coming, folks. And we're here to get you ready for it.
I'm excited.
We're here to get you ready.
I'm excited.
Oh, baby.
Let's go. It's been too long. Christmas was cool, but now I'm ready for, I'm ready.
You know when it really starts to hit, though? That
months from now?
That week after 4th of July weekend. 4th of July weekend, everybody's having, and then all of a sudden, holy moly, here we go.
And then
it's the home stretch
with the social media clips of QBs just throwing like normal passes on normal routes.
And receivers dropping passes. Yeah. Oh, it's a buzz. He fumbled in 7-7. It's over for him.
And the caption says locked in with like a devil emoji and a bad
pre-practice selfies from the wide receiver group. Oh, they're about to go for a bunch of touchdowns this year. Yeah. But then this is the time of year where you get that dreaded non-contact injury. So it is important if you're in a fantasy football or you're going to be in leagues this coming fall, you pay attention to this stuff because you don't want to be the guy that drafts Plaxico Burress and he's sitting in prison because he shot himself in the leg with his own handgun. So don't be that guy. Just don't be that guy.
If you're an architect, do be that guy. I would love.
Yeah. If you're in my league, I would love it if you were that guy. 100%. 100%. Pete, I think we should start with some breaking news.
Breaking news. Hours ago.
Adam Schefter of ESPN Twitter report. Dalvin Cook, starting running back for the last, 4 years? 4 years for the Minnesota Vikings, has been informed he will be released. It's not official yet, but it's expected to come through as early as tomorrow. This is a huge deal. I think he's legitimately a top 10 running back in the National Football League. And this is the second former Pro Bowler. And with Adam Thielen being gone, certainly they have a rookie wide receiver out there and Jordan Addison, but to go along with, obviously their excellent quarterback in Kirk Cousins, S-tier quarterback. Everyone knows it. And seemingly what this is what shocks me about it. I want to get your take on here in a second, but this is what shocks me. In a division that would appear to be wide open now with Aaron Rodgers no longer being there, why would you move on from your bell cow running back? I don't understand it.
Money?
He's under contract for this year. He was under contract for this year, to my knowledge.
Are they giving more money to Kirk Cousins?
I hope not.
He is the king of 50-50. Well, he had like a crazy stat last year. It was like, during that game, he had a perfectly even record of exact same number of wins and losses. It was just split across the board, like during his time.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins is the epitome of mediocrity in the grading spectrum of an NFL quarterback. Right. Like he will win games. You will get to the playoffs with him, but you will never win at a high level with him. That's just That's just not going to happen.
Do you think they're too worried about injury? Do you think they're trying to free up money for like a run not this year but next year? I mean, did they replace anyone major?
I'm not sure.
They got TJ Hawkinson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They got TJ Hawkinson. Obviously, they've got Jefferson, their great receiver. They got Jordan Addison, their rookie receiver out of USC, who's former Biletnikoff winner, hell of a wide receiver. And they got Kirk Cousins, and seemingly they were having Dalvin Cook, and you're looking at that offense and that skill sets and your skill positions. You're like, holy moly, who in the NFC North is going to deal with that? Well, now who's running the ball? Because right now it's Madison, to my knowledge. Or here's some things I have on this, and we'll address a little bit more later. But does this mean that the Vikings are in the market for maybe a different free agent running back that they like a little bit better? We'll get to that later. I don't want to spoil that, but something to think about.
They currently have Madison, Ty Chandler, Dwayne McBride, and Keen. I cannot pronounce his last name. Nwangu?
So,
saying that right? NWANG?
Nwangu?
Yeah.
Nope, Nwangu. Clearly a veteran-laden backfield.
Yeah. My favorite backup running back to draft every year is Madison. 100%. I'll let him ride the bench for the entire season.
To be fair, I'm just seeing a report. They haven't released him yet. They are trying to trade him. I'm seeing a report come through. They're trying to trade him before their end of Thursday deadline. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler in 6 seasons. And here's wow. ESPN is reporting that the Miami Dolphins may be a potential trade partner for Dalvin Cook.
That would be interesting with who's that cornerback that just went there? Big time cornerback.
Jalen Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey just went there.
Ramsey's there. Think about that offense. And then you put a bell cow running back with that offense. That's a scary offense. That's a very scary offense. Anyway, let's move on. We're taking up too much time with this, but that's breaking news. Yeah.
Exciting.
I think the first topic we had on our list here, and I don't know if you had a particular order you wanted to go in.
No particular order, just kind of what we went over initially.
Well, we're gonna do a callback from last week's episode a little bit and just kind of finish off that fantasy football league team setup talk that we had, and we're gonna do a little segment here on fantasy football team names, the good, the bad, how to choose them, what you might want to stay away from. Remember, folks, it's for fun. We're playing for fun and to humiliate our friends, right?
Which is fun.
I think that's the fun. One of the most fun things you can do.
It really is.
Yeah. I'm officially titling this segment as "Choose Your Character" because essentially your team name is your character in this game of fantasy. So, did you have? I'm gonna let you start. You got any good names that you or good naming conventions that?
I'm gonna start off with things I don't like.
Oh, okay.
Start off, and then I also
two negatives and a positive, or negative, positive, negative, like sandwich that.
Yeah,
like the opposite of critiquing. Okay,
I do also want to address something I don't feel is addressed often. So even before team names, something less personal, but I think is still important and makes it fun, are the division names. And I don't think division names get a lot of love. I don't think they get changed too often. From what I've seen, I think that's a fun thing that you can do, especially if your league has a theme. Like our league, Shark League, has a theme. Our streamer league, content league has themes. So like for example, last year our division names between the two divisions was Poop Deck Heroes and Davy Jones Sea Dogs. The underwater theme, could be cool. I think it was cool. I think Poop Deck Heroes Could be a lot
it's
of
basically
things.
C oriented, right?
Yeah.
It's a C oriented comedic attempt at division names to go along with the Shark League format. And that I'm going to say this. I think that critique and that point is more designed and pointed at general managers, league GMs, right?
Yeah.
Your league managers, they're the ones that control that. That's a sign of kind of an immersion technique that they an immersion feature that they control. So some league managers are like, I don't care. Some commissioners, I guess you would call them, they don't care.
Some leagues don't even have divisions. You just have
They know. There's just a free for all of just a giant bowl of crap, and just everybody's going after it. It's like the Big 12, and but in the real world, in competitive fantasy football, in the SECs of the fantasy football world, you got to have divisions. You got to have pods. You got to have groupings of teams.
I think it makes it fun
so that you can seed your playoffs correctly and appropriately. The hard part about divisions, though, I will say this, is you have absolutely no idea who's going to be good when those divisions are laid out. And quite oftentimes I've seen you organize. One second. Sorry about that, folks. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties.
Media timeout.
You organize the divisions based on who you think has the most fantasy football skill set. But if half the league drafts poorly and they happen to be in the same division, you end up with divisional winners who are getting automatic first round buys with a 5-5 record. It happens.
Do you remember how many teams last year had like a 6-7 record? Like 8 teams.
Yeah, I was one of them.
Out of 12.
I was one of them.
Yeah,
I was one of them. I believe I was the 7 seed, and the top 6 made the playoff, and it was like a tiebreaker for the 6 seed, and I lost because of a technicality somehow down the line. I don't know. I don't really know how it works.
Just the GM messing with rules late in the season.
Most of the time they cheat. It's fine. They don't, folks. That's a joke. Don't get after your GMs. Leave them alone. What else don't you like?
I'm not a big fan of changing team names halfway through the season. So like I've seen before where you choose a team name and then you lose 5 in a row, and then you're just like, you change your name from whatever you had it as to like F this, I'm out, something like that. I don't like that. I think you should stick to stick to your guns, stick to what you committed to at the beginning of the season, as well as playing throughout the whole season. I don't like that. I will say I'm not the biggest fan of like inside jokes that maybe one other person gets or that nobody else gets. I think that's kind of I love the I'll say this. I love puns, like pun names. I think those are always fun and creative. Anything to do with like a specific player. For example, I have all of the league names of the 3 leagues I was in last year. Cobra Kyler is one of them. Like Cobra Kai, they had the QB over in Arizona on their team. I do like team names that have
you may know him more for his Call of Duty prowess, just for the record.
Right.
Go on. Right. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. I do like names like that. Like Big Digs Energy was in our league last year. So any kind of puns with like a funny phrase, I think that makes it more exciting. I think that's a pretty common thing. I work in my work league. We had a lot of team names actually named around what the company does. So I'm in the pine straw, the pine needle business, the green industry. My team name in my league.
Look them up in the yellow pages, folks.
We might actually be in there. It's old school down here. My team name was the Texas Chain Straw Massacre. Another gentleman in my league was Straw and Order. I thought that was pretty cool.
Boom, boom.
Yeah. So I like those. I like when you have a little fun with it. I think anything that's just like I heart the Packers. I think that's lame. Nothing to do with the Packers, but just
That's a
shot.
Like, that's a shot. 100%. That's 100% a shot.
Whatever.
Vince Lombardi is rolling in his grave from that shot. That is terrible to the people of Wisconsin.
or like if you try to make a pun name out of your team that's not good, like Pack Attack. Again, not picking on the Packers. They just happen to be top 100%. Of mind.
Another shot.
Like you know what I mean?
He's just consistently going for shots.
Okay,
folks.
but like Snack Pack, I would like more than like Pack Attack. You know what I'm saying?
It's just another Packers reference. You just let it go.
There's no other teams that I can think of, but
let it go.
Things like that. I like that. I like to see some creativity. There's some classic. Give me a couple things you don't like, what you do like, just off the, what's top of mind.
All right, so you went bad names then good, bad then good first. So I'll follow suit. Here's my biggest pet peeve in fantasy is team and then in parentheses last name of the person who runs the team. We have a couple of those in our league, and there's one exception to this, and that is somebody who's very, very good at fantasy football, and that's his team name every single year. Mm-hmm. It then becomes kind of a moniker that's stuck with him. But outside of that, it's just, hey man, that's your team's name because that's your email address. Like, why, or your username? Stop. Right. Like figure it out. Participate. Also, I don't like fantasy football team names that are actual mascot names. So if your fantasy football team name is the Lions, we get it. That's generic. Like, let's get creative. We don't need the Saints as your fantasy football. Just the Saints. Like, let's do something creative. Get after it. You know what I mean? And I also I had on here the obscure references that nobody gets. Look, let's just be reasonable here. Some people think they're really funny, and they're just not funny, and it's not their fault. They're trying really hard, but stay in your lane. Know what you're good at, know what you're not good at, and go from there.
I do also like, sorry to interrupt, I do also like team names that personally attack other people in the league. For example, we have an Atlanta Falcons stan in one of our leagues. There's actually two team names in there that are direct attacks on that player. The first one being Nick Can Throat Me. I think that's a pretty solid team name.
And then for the record, for the kids out there, that's a little aggressive. That might be a little more over the top. That might not even be a team-based attack. That might be just a personal attack, or even a personal invitation.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to read into that.
Another good one, hey Dan, Bortle my balls. That's actually a twofer, right? So you get in a player, that person's attacking that person's favorite player, and has a little bit of an extra zing at the end, which I like quite a bit.
And I appreciate you not bringing up my team name. That was also one of those. That was a personal attack against them.
Well, I want to see if you wanted to say anything, but
that's okay. Let's just leave it out there. I gotta live here now.
Yeah. His wasn't Nick Can Throat Me, by the way. That was
that was not me. Come on, keep it classy, folks. Here's some good ways I think to center your team name around. I like people who stay up with current events and can think of clever and creative ways to name their team around something that's actually happening that year. So I'm a big proponent of I change my team name every year and try to think of something new and creative. For an example, a couple years ago, my team's name was the Bishop Sycamore Centurions, because if you all remember, the Bishop Sycamore fake high school team that got destroyed by IMG Academy and was broadcasted live on ESPN because nobody vetted them, and I thought it was hilarious. So I thought that was great. I'm sure there's others out there, but be creative, put some time into it. Now, we talked about playing off players' names, playing off team names, and clever adult reference names. We've talked about all three of those, but it's all good. As long as you're doing things to try and be creative, be funny, be invested. We talked about that a lot last week. That's what you're looking for in a fantasy football league member,
Yeah, effort.
So,
At minimum, a little bit of
it's
effort.
a low bar, folks. All you
It is
gotta do is get above that bar. It's like doing pull-ups with a step stool. All right, you could probably make it.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing we wanted to cover in terms of league alignment, league structure, league participation. Just a callback from last week, and then we kind of wanted to move on to some of the movement in the NFL this season that might impact how fantasy football plays out.
Or if you don't play fantasy, just your team. How your team might play out this year.
Exactly. This has fantasy implications and non-fantasy implications. There's a lot of good, bad, and ugly here. First, we're going to talk about team success from a non-fantasy standpoint. We're going to talk about who made the biggest or the best moves or the worst moves, or who we don't think's made great moves at all. I call it the good, the bad, and the mid. That's the name of this topic, and it's for the top NFL off-season movers, right? Which teams did we think made the best, worst changes, right? So, Pete, who do you got on? Do you want to go good first, mid first, or bad first?
Let's start with good.
Okay, who you got on your good list? Who's getting Christmas presents this year?
Teams that I like, I think the most obvious one, in my eyes, would be the Jets. I think a heavy investment into Aaron Rodgers is, again, it looks good. We don't know how it's going to play out. He got, two of the receivers that he was wanting as well? Is Cobb there right now? Is that confirmed?
Probably, but let's be honest. He's just there as a locker room guy. I mean, if he catches 10 passes this season, that'll be a shock.
Yeah. But it makes Aaron happy, I guess. But maybe that's incorrect. But I also know that Lazard the Hazard went over there, Alan Lazard, which is a good thing.
You're a big fan.
If I read my notes correctly, Mecole Hardman came over there from Kansas City.
He did.
Oh, Randall Cobb is on there. I have my information correct. So as far as receivers go, with Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis,
they already had
Alan
a couple
Lazard, Mecole Hardman, Randall Cobb. That's probably more for leadership and making Aaron happy. I feel like the Jets was a pretty obvious one for me. As far as good, do you agree, disagree, have other thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I have the Jets in my good line, and it's pretty simple. The Jets' defense last year was good enough to get them to the playoffs. What they fell apart in is they had a first-round draft pick quarterback who couldn't do jack squat, and they had to rely on a guy with a generic creative player named Mike White to come in and try to save them. All right? They've got good if not great receiving core. They've bolstered their offensive line. They've added to their running game. I think that this team, if they stay healthy and can protect Aaron Rodgers, has the propensity to do very, very well this year, although they are in a very tough division. Not just a kind of tough division, a very tough division. I think the AFC East this year is going to have – it reminds me of how the NFC West was a couple of years ago when there was legitimately a chance for all four teams to go to the playoffs.
That's for me. That's my most obvious pick. Do you want to switch off? Try one. Do one of them in your top picks as well.
All right, we'll go back and forth. Yeah. Number 2 on my list. Jets were number 1, folks. I'm sorry. When you have a multi-time MVP quarterback that transitions teams, that's a big move.
It's a dramatic move. Yeah.
Second on my list is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't know if Jacksonville made that many moves. Well, they didn't. They didn't make a move. They had already made the move. But now they get to use the player that they went out and got at the beginning of the year last year. Calvin Ridley is coming back. And you're talking about a Jacksonville Jaguar team who went to the playoffs, won a playoff game. They were very, very good last year. Trevor Lawrence gets another year. And, oh, by the way, you put a weapon like Calvin Ridley, just pluck him out and say, here you go, have fun. Jaguars could be very good in a division that has a lot of young quarterbacks in it, and we don't really know what the other teams are doing. Jacksonville's the established, proven commodity in that division, and I think Jacksonville could be the team to beat out of the AFC South this year.
I agree with you on that one as well. I do think that Trevor Lawrence is only going to get better with time, and he wasn't bad last year, and I think he's just going to get better. They kept Evan Ingram by then? Is that the case?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
So they have Christian Kirk at receiver. They've got Ridley at receiver. I'm assuming they still have ETN. And then if I'm reading my notes, I'm looking at my running back depth chart correctly. They also got Dearness Johnson over from, was he in Cleveland still?
I think so, but he was a third stringer, I think there.
Yeah, but he had some good role models, I think. I don't know.
Anytime you're behind Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, that's nice.
Yeah, it's not like those were, nobodies. I don't know who Tank Bigsby is.
I do, and I could tell you about him. He's a young fella I'm excited about. He was a running back last year at Auburn.
Okay.
He's a
rookie. Okay.
The best player on Auburn. And I don't think it was really all that close. Yeah, I think he has the chance to be a solid 1-2 punch with Travis Etienne. I think that's going to be their running back room potentially for the next 2-3 years.
I do think that the Jags are going to be fun to watch. I think they're going to be good, which I feel like when the Jags are good, the NFL's better overall.
It's just more fun to watch.
It's more fun to watch. I love
there's more Zins in the stands. There's just it's just a better
when Florida
vibe.
Teams are good, minus the Bucs.
Yeah.
I love when Florida teams are good because the other two are. It's just like, I don't know. It seems unruly down there, and I love when people have to go to Florida to play, and it's like 180 degrees, and all the
with
Florida
100% heat, 120% humidity. They lose 7 pounds on the walk from the bus to the locker room, and it's just like, whew.
I do like that. I will say that on another team that I like the offseason moves, and I'm going to say the Bears, and because of how dramatic that massive trade was to Carolina. I didn't say they're going to be good. I just said that they have an extremely dramatic change, and they have a lot of things coming. And I don't think that Justin Fields, again, I don't think he's someone who's going to get worse, just like Trevor Lawrence. I think he gets better. I don't think he's like elite yet.
Well, just to put this in context, just to put this in context for everybody, this is a man who religiously will not draft Bears offensive players for his fantasy football team.
I will not draft a Bears player for the rest of my life. I don't care if it's the number 1 pick. I do not care for fantasy purposes. Bears can get Ben. I do not give a shit. I'm not doing it. Can't make it.
So he's already taken out 40% of the NFC North. Just so you know, the Packers and the Bears hate you.
Yeah.
Even though he says you're going to be better, Bear.
They are going to be better. Robert Tonyan over there, I think he's better. They're getting Deonta Foreman as well, who is
I do like that pickup for them.
Pretty solid in the backfield. I think he gives a lot of relief to Justin Fields. They have DJ Moore. Is DJ Moore a top 10 receiver? I don't know.
No.
They're certainly advertising as such. But it's not like DeAndre Hopkins coming over to be an automatic wide receiver 1. But they made a lot of trades. They made a lot of dramatic moves. I think they'll be better. My point being is I think it's a step in the right direction, not the other way.
Yeah, I certainly think the Bears, that division is wide open. Okay, as soon as you take Aaron Rodgers out of the division, now nobody knows what the hell's going to happen.
Right.
And the Vikings are the clear-cut favorite, I think, just based on what their pieces were. And they decide they're going to cut ties with their number 1 running back. Now I don't know what to think anymore. So the Bears certainly have a young, hungry quarterback. He's a hell of an athlete. My concern is The same thing it is with any running quarterback. Is he going to stay healthy?
You're gonna have to throw at some
one
point.
wrong hit. Yeah, one wrong hit in the NFL, and you're RG3. My third pick in the good column. I got 5 total in mind, and I might add a 6 here by the end of this if it's not set already. I got the Seattle Seahawks. Now I know we've established that I am a Seattle Seahawks fan, but let's be honest, folks. Going into last season, the Seahawks were only supposed to win 2 games? They made the damn playoffs. And what'd they do this year in the draft? People were like, wow, they hit on a lot of good young players. Well, what'd they do this year in the draft? Went out and got the top-rated corner in the draft. Went out and got the top-rated wide receiver in the draft. Got the third-rated running back in the draft. Oh, are the Seahawks going to hit again on their players and their position groups? They're adding Tariq Woolen, who was a Pro Bowl last year. They're giving him a running mate that was the number 1 corner in everybody's grade chart. If he shows up and plays well, all of a sudden you're looking at a Seahawks team with a healthy Jamal Adams, with Bobby Wagner back in the fold, with young, hungry, talented players included on that defense and the veteran leadership to help them. Their defense, I expect to be a lot better than it was last year, which it was atrocious. And their offense, led by Geno Smith, has added an outstanding weapon to go along with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Noah Fant. They now have Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's probably the cleanest route runner in the National Football League for rookies. He's just smooth and fluid. He's a perfect slot receiver. So him and Tyler Lockett just play hopscotch on the slot on one side and screw up the defense. And you send DK deep. Good luck guarding him. Not to mention the fact they drafted the running back from UCLA, who is a big, powerful young man, and he's going to serve as a nice 1-2 punch for them.
Is that the Charbonnet?
Charbonnet, yes. They lose Penny to the Eagles, but I think they get an adequate replacement in Charbonnet, and I think that their backfield is going to be good. I think their offensive line's only going to get better. Those 2 rookie tackles are going to be great. So all in all, I think the Seahawks have addressed a lot of needs. The trade for Russell Wilson just appears to be more and more worth it for them. And if they can compete for and earn a playoff spot this year, maybe even win the division, although that's going to be tough with the 49ers and how good they are, this team, I think, is at least going to be competing to win a playoff game this year, maybe even host one.
Interesting. I actually agree with that. But as a Seahawks fan as well, I don't currently see any downside to Geno. I feel like he's probably as confident as ever. Like, is there any reason for him to take a step back next year? I don't think so. I think the Seahawks will be as good as they were last year, or even a little bit better. I don't know if they. I'm just thinking of the division, and we can talk about the Rams in a little bit because I have them on a list. It's not the good list, but it's on one. I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be annoying to deal with. I think it's one of those teams. It's like I don't want to play them. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be a blowout. It's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be like I think teams look at it and they just go, well, now I guess we have to like pay attention this week.
Well, listen, anytime you got to go up against a guy like Aaron Donald, it's going to be a hard road to sow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm just talking about Seahawks in general. Like, I feel like it's one of those teams where it's like, okay, we're gonna have to try. You know what I'm saying?
That's how the NFL works, my friend. You gotta have to bring it every week.
Saying. You know what I'm saying, dude.
There's no gimmies in the NFL.
But you know
they don't have those. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Who's next on your list there, bud?
So as far as teams, I think continuing to move in the right direction. I want to also include the Broncos.
I had them on my list as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
A big part of that being the coach. I have nothing to say about Russell Wilson. He's still a Pro Bowl quarterback and a Super Bowl champion.
Former.
Okay, Lamar's a former MVP, but they keep paying him. So what are we doing? I think the Broncos are heading in the right direction. That he's clearly a much better coach than what they've had. He's as far as like the run game goes, do you think that would be a good spot for Dalvin to end up too, based on the new coaching staff there?
I think so. They do have a couple of running backs there, young running backs. I want to say Javon something. I can't remember.
I'll pull up my depth charts here. They've
can't
got
remember his
Javonte
name.
Williams.
Javonte Williams. Yeah, he's a hell of a running back. That young man has a lot of talent. I think he's right now firmly entrenched as their number one running back. But I don't know if Dalvin Cook fits into that offense and what that head coach wants to do. Because Sean Payton, if you remember his offenses with the New Orleans Saints, they threw the ball a lot. And he emphasized running backs who catch the ball out of the backfield. And while Dalvin Cook, I'm no shot to hit at him. I believe he's very good at it.
He can catch, yeah.
But I think he's better as a bell cow. I think he needs 15, 20 carries a game to be successful. And I just don't know how that's going to work. We'll see. We don't know how any offensive systems are going to work at this point, but it would be interesting to see him end up there. That's for sure.
Although the Broncos are a team, I don't care if they do well. I'm just like never. I'm sorry. I just don't. As a Seahawks fan, I do not care if the Broncos do well. They have their backup is Pirine, I guess, over from Cincy.
Yeah, and Samaje Pirine's that big bell cow kind of back that you like to have on third down. So I don't know if they're a player in that market, but it'd be interesting to see them there.
Yeah. So I have Denver in there. Again, dramatic change, and I think a dramatic swing is what I want to address is like the good. And these are teams that not so great, making dramatic changes in a better direction, I think, as someone who is not an expert in the NFL at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, you go from a first-year head coach who worked with Aaron Rodgers to a former Super Bowl winning head coach who worked with Drew Brees. Russell Wilson has been compared his entire career to Drew Brees because of his stature. So if anybody knows how to generate an offense that can allow for throwing lanes for a shorter quarterback to see through, it's Sean Payton. So I think it's a great fit. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that division. As I said, I had them on my list as well. But the last team I had on my good list, I might have one more depending on who you got left, is the Atlanta Falcons. That's right.
Really?
Home team rules, the Atlanta Falcons, where we are currently recording from, the beautiful city of Atlanta. I believe this is a year that they have a very strong opportunity to win the NFC South. Let me tell you why. Tom Brady, he's not here anymore, folks. He's not. The Saints, how'd they upgrade this year? Well, they went out and got Derek Carr to replace Andy Dalton. Talk about putting a hat on a hat. All right. The Carolina Panthers have a rookie starter now. By the way, that's breaking news too. Bryce Young has been named the starting quarterback of the Panthers as of this point in the offseason as they get through OTAs.
With Andy Dalton as the mentor.
Yeah, so
still has a job, Andy Dalton.
Not a bad quarterback. The Red Rifle had some great seasons in Cincinnati. People undersell Andy Dalton. But what I'm saying is, with the way that the Falcons are set up to play and the weapons they have and the running backs they have, they are built to run the ball. Their head coach is a former offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens the year that Lamar MVP. What'd they do that year? They had Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram, and they ran the dang ball, and they ran play action off of it. Well, what are you going to do if you're Atlanta? You're running the ball. You got Bijan Robinson, the number 1 running back of the NFL draft. Possibly, some people were saying, the best player in the NFL draft. Bang, they pick him up. They already had Cordell Patterson in the backfield, Tyler Algier in the backfield. They had so many weapons in the backfield. They got a young
They
quarterback.
still have them, by the way.
Yeah. I know.
They still
That's
have
why
them,
I'm
and
putting
Caleb
them on my
Huntley.
good list. That's why I'm excited about the Atlanta Falcons. They have a young quarterback. They're not quite sure what they got with him yet, but they say, hey, we're going to do run heavy and play action off the run. Well, what do you need when you play action off the run? A good tight end. Oh, I'm sorry. They got Kyle Pitts sitting there at tight end. That's a pretty good player.
The Pitts.
That's a pretty good player. The Pitts stain. Not only that, you look at the defensive side of the football, and they made some major moves on defense. All right, they've added to their cornerback room. They've added to their defensive line. I think the Atlanta Falcons will win the NFC South this year. I think the Atlanta Falcons should be, and I think they'll win the
over
NFC
the
South.
Panthers, the Saints, and the Bucks.
I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of faith in Baker.
Those powerhouse team.
Yeah. You got anybody else in your good list?
Let's get to my notes here. I mean, I like that no one's who, like, for me, no one's like, yes, like this is a dramatic change. I like that the Eagles went and got some vets back. I think they're still going to be in a good spot. I think the Giants might still be in a decent spot coming back. Getting Darren Waller, I think Paris Campbell, if that's right, over from Colts. Is that where he was at? Yeah. I think the Giants, again, it's not as dramatic, but I think they're still kind of in a good spot. The Eagles, the Giants, I had the Bears, the Jets. I think the Lions as well are also in a good spot. And
they got a wide open division. So
yeah, I like where that is. I know they lost Jamal Williams in the backfield. I still think they're in a good spot, even though.
But they picked up a good running back to replace him in the draft. So
yeah, they have David Montgomery in the backfield. They have David Montgomery now in the backfield as well. I think that team is in a good spot, headed in the right direction as well. That's kind of my list as far as goods.
I got one more. I got 2 honorable mentions.
Okay.
2 honorable mentions that I think teams made really good moves and they could be a lot better this year. I think the Miami Dolphins could be very, 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 very good this year. They went out and got Jalen Ramsey, so now they have arguably the best cornerback tandem in the league. They already had a very, very good defensive line. They've got great wide receivers, right? They went out and got who was the gosh darn it, his name's escaping. They went out and got that receiver that got traded from Carolina to Arizona last year, mid-season. Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson is on Miami right now. Really? So think of so Robbie Anderson, Jalen Waller, and Tyreek Hill. They drafted Devin Achane out of Texas A&M, one of the fastest running backs in the draft. Speed is not going to be a problem for the Miami Dolphins. They're going to be the fastest offense in the league for player personnel. The only thing that could hold them back, Tua staying healthy.
I was going to say the quarterbacks are my biggest concern there. The quarterbacks are my biggest concern.
If he takes too many headshots, you're going to be in trouble. But the Miami Dolphins, I didn't have them on my list. I kind of threw them in as an honorable mention because they have the chance to be great. And the other team that I had on there,
they did lose Mike Gesicki as well.
That's okay. It's speed. All right.
Yeah, but did you see his gritty? I mean, they're losing an icon.
Yeah, him and did Mike Gesicki go to the Patriots?
Yes.
Yeah, so him and Mac Jones can go gritty together. Yeah, remember Mac Jones is gritty in the Pro Bowl?
I think it's giddy when it says to. Yeah.
I think it's a sachet with those two. This last honorable mention hurts me to say because I don't like praising this team too much because they praise themselves enough. And that's the Dallas Cowboys. I think getting Brandon Cooks for that offense opens up a crazy amount of possibilities, right? Yes, they lose Ezekiel Elliott, but they have good running backs, right? Tony Pollard was a good running back.
He is a good running back.
Healthy last year.
He is a good running back.
Yeah, so I think they're going to be fine running the football. I think their defense was very good last year. I think they're going to continue to be good. But I think just that simple addition of Brandon Cooks to that offense just opens up a whole bunch of possibilities. People forget about Brandon Cooks. He's been toiling in obscurity for the past 4 years.
He's just being dumped on bad teams.
And now he's on a
year?
team that has the propensity to be good. If Dak stays healthy and the running game stays balanced and that defense plays the way they did last year, Dallas is going to be in the thick of it. And it'll be interesting to see how he's utilized in that offense. I know Mike McCarthy loves him. He's already been out in pressers talking about him, so I'm interested in that.
I did have the Cowboys as more of a middle team for me. Nothing dramatic in either direction.
I just 1 second.
It's allergy season down here, folks.
It is.
Down in the hot, sticky Atlanta area. Metro Atlanta.
Holy smokes, that was a big one.
Hey,
anyway. So I didn't have the Dallas Cowboys on my list at all. I wasn't even going to talk about them. And then I saw a report today, a presser that McCarthy did, and I started thinking about how good Brandon Cooks was as an athlete. And I was like, you know what? He could make a big difference. Big difference.
They have tools.
Who do you got? You want to go bad or mid?
We could go. Well, we're at the 46-minute mark, so I just want to ask how long you want to do because we could keep going.
Oh, we got stuff to talk about. All right.
All right. I'm gonna go bad.
All right. Who's on your bad list? Number one team.
The number one team I have on my bad list. Well, I guess it's in no particular order, but teams that I think aren't necessarily going in the right direction. I'm going to say the Rams as my first one. I think the Rams, I can't even think of like any major changes. All I can think about are the losses that they've had. I mean, you got Cooper Kupp, I believe, who is returning. I think they went like, I don't think they did any long-term planning really in the last year or so. Like they were kind of blown.
No, they went all in for a Super Bowl, and now they're locked up in salary cap hell, right?
Yeah. So I think the Rams are going in the wrong direction for me, which is great because they're in our division. So I hope we can smoke those dudes every game. Stafford's still good. I just don't know how good everyone else is going to be. I mean, they still have really good players. I don't think they're going in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. They're not on my list in that category, but the number one bad move team, it's more of a loss than anything else. It's the Packers. I mean, you go from a multi-time MVP at quarterback to some guy who played at Utah State. Okay, let's see what happens. I mean, the young man could have all the talent in the world, but those are some big shoes to fill. And unless he's the second coming of Aaron Rodgers, who when Aaron Rodgers came in the league, he was the second coming of Brett Favre. You think about the Packers' success at quarterback. They went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and now they got this young man who's got to fill those shoes. Let's hope he can do something, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in it. I just don't think that the Packers have enough firepower offensively. I feel bad for their running backs because they got two elite running backs in A.J. Dillon.
Some of my favorite running backs to draft every year as far as fantasy goes.
Yeah, and a large portion of that for Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, who we're speaking about, one of the reasons they're so good is because they were playing with Aaron Rodgers, who makes everybody around him better. And for a guy like Jones, that was huge, catching balls out of the backfield. He was like the Packers version of Alvin Kamara.
You could play both running backs comfortably in fantasy,
legitimately,
because you could get a buck to a $150 in yardage with 10 catches with Aaron Jones, and then you'd get like 3 rushing touchdowns from the 5 with Dillon.
Exactly.
You could play them.
And now you don't have that. You don't have that threat of the passing game that opens up the box. It's going to take. They're in improvement mode for me. They're my number one.
I think they're still there, but if I'm going to say fantasy implications, I think both of those players suffer to an extent. More, I would even say more Aaron Jones than AJ Dillon.
I think Aaron Jones suffers. I think both of them are still going to be high volume, especially with Adam Lazard, or Alan Lazard, I should say, going to the Jets. I mean, because then you have Watkins, or was it Wilkins or Watkins, the rookie receiver from last year, their first-round draft pick from last year.
Dubes and Reed are their first team.
I'm sorry, it doesn't leave me feeling confident in the Green Bay Packers. That's why I think they're the biggest loser of the NFL offseason right now. I think that they got caught holding the bag without a plan to how to get rid of it, and now they're sitting there going, "Oh no, what do we do?" So, who else you got on that list?
Another team that I have on this list of, I think, teams going in the wrong direction. Again, this may be an obvious answer, but I'm going to say the Bucs. I don't think that. You're losing the greatest quarterback all time. And I don't think Baker Mayfield's the answer.
No,
I don't think that's an answer. I think that's a filler. And who else do you have? Kyle Trask over there. Yeah, I just don't. They're not going the right way, and I think they're going to be not that great. Who are the running backs? They got a new one. Chase, was it Chase Edmonds? Yeah, they got Chase Edmonds over there. They have Rashad White, and I think they're going the wrong way.
They got weapons. They got the weapons. I just don't think that Baker Mayfield is the man to distribute the weapons.
I don't think he's the answer, and I think the team's going to go into that knowing that, unfortunately. And they actually had some of the worst social media posts. They were not locked in, and they did not use those emojis. So
let's just so you know, folks, social media posts directly correlate to team success. So it's an important.
As a non-expert, these are my sources. Okay, I won't reveal them, but it's a social media website.
All right.
Now, obviously, they missed passes. Bucs are going in the wrong direction, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a tough year.
Yeah, and I think that they're going up. They're interacting with a team in the Falcons that's moving in the right direction, and I think they're going to find out they have a rude awakening that Tom Brady's just not going to walk through the door and help you win 10 games like he was before. Next on my list, I had the Bucs as well. They were in my third slot. My number 2 slot in the bad division, it's the Arizona Cardinals. You just let arguably the best receiver in the league. You could make the argument that DeAndre Hopkins, when healthy, is the best receiver in the National Football League. Walk out the door for nothing. You released him. You didn't get anything back. I mean, you fleeced the Texans for him when you traded for him in the first place, but then to get nothing in return and he's leaving? What are you doing? And think about Kyler Murray and his productivity without DeAndre Hopkins last year. Do you remember that when he was suspended for the first, 6 games of the season?
Yeah, it was.
Kyler Murray looked terrible. Arizona couldn't win a game. And then DeAndre Hopkins came back and they became viable again. They became, okay, this team's got threatening. Without DeAndre Hopkins on that offense is firmly seated at the bottom of the NFC West, in my opinion. I just don't see it. And I think that player loss alone trumps any acquisition that they made. I don't care about anybody else they might have added to the team because DeAndre Hopkins is that big of a deal. Whoever gets DeAndre Hopkins, by the way, speaking of DeAndre Hopkins, ESPN reporting that he has a visit scheduled with the Tennessee Titans this week. Interesting. Moving forward, who you got? Who you got next on your?
Sorry, to backtrack a little bit. I was also going to ask you: does Fournette have a team right now?
Lenny, playoff Lenny. Well, he doesn't need a team till the playoffs because he doesn't do anything until the playoffs. There's a couple big name running backs out there that are still waiting for the call.
Right.
Yep. So
he's not on a team, right? Right? They released him. I'm pretty sure.
I can't. I honestly, I haven't followed Leonard Fournette. He hasn't been relevant for me in a while. And if this reaches the ears of Leonard Fournette, sorry, dog. It's just factual. I'm sorry.
I drafted you, bro. I played you every dog.
You have.
He's not currently on the Tampa Bay depth chart, so I'm thinking that he is not. And the March article said that he was released. Here.
Okay.
So maybe he's without a team.
And he's probably not at the top of the running back pecking order in terms of free agents.
No.
Who else you got in the bad column? Anybody else that we need to touch base on?
I was going to say the Titans.
Really?
Well, with that news, it's a little bit different. Are they getting better? I don't know.
You don't like Will Levis? You're not a big mayo in your coffee guy?
Levis jeans? I don't know, man. I just don't. Is he good? I don't know. I hope. Look, I want everyone to win all the time. Yeah, I don't. Are the Titans going the right direction? Again, I'm trying to look at it as dramatic swings in people trying to make big moves to go in the correct direction. I don't know if Tennessee is there. I don't feel like Tennessee's ever like bad. They're just kind of. I just don't know if they're going forward necessarily based on what I was reading. Again, as an expert in the NFL,
we'll see. We'll see what happens. Excuse me. I apologize. So we both had the Broncos on our potentially good list, right? With Peyton. I also have the Broncos on our potentially bad list. But I have them both on my good and bad list because I really don't know what the heck's going to happen. Because Sean Payton could come in and he could right the ship and Russell Wilson will respect him. Or it feels like Russell Wilson in his last 3 or 4 years has developed maybe a little bit of an ego and it could explode. And then who knows what's going to happen. So they're in a very tough division. You got the Chiefs. You got the Chargers. You got very, very good teams. The Chiefs have won that division, by the way, 7 years in a row, looking to make it 8. We'll see. And staying in that division, I'm kind of doing a 2 for right now. I got the Raiders on my bad list too.
Really?
Because, I mean, listen, we talked about the Saints putting a hat on a hat, trading Andy Dalton for Derek Carr. Well, that's what the Raiders got rid of Derek Carr and they brought in Jimmy Garoppolo. It's like they're just playing musical chairs with the same quarterback. These aren't elite guys. These aren't elite quarterbacks.
Right. I guess that's why I had a more of like a meh, like a. I don't know if they're going to go backwards, but I don't think they're going forwards.
If you're gonna have and put the big money out there for a guy at wide receiver that you're going to take from Aaron Rodgers and throw him out there, Devontae Adams, and you're like, okay, we're going to reunite you with Derek for a season, and it doesn't work. Well, we got to move on from Derek. You best have been the ones to go to Green Bay and get Aaron Rodgers. But instead, they let him go to the Jets. You're in Vegas now, baby. You got a huge amount of money you can pay. Come on, Raiders. Go get Aaron. That's what they should have done. They didn't. And now they're sitting there holding the Jimmy Garoppolo up as their starting quarterback, who's injury prone and really needs a strong defense in order to make it to the Super Bowl. And let's be fair, the Raiders don't necessarily have a very good defense. I got the Raiders as my last bad list.
And they lost
team.
Waller, which is a huge loss.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that. And he's probably their second best player, if not their best player. I mean, him and Devontae Adams were 1A and 1B respectively. And you lose Darren Waller, and now what the heck's going to happen? So it's going to be interesting. In the AFC West, there's a lot of strength at the top and unknown at the bottom, and so that's why it's a crapshoot for me.
What's your? And this may be out of order, but what's your? What do you think about the Chargers? Right.
I think the Chargers can't get it. I don't think they can get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And they got a coach who's essentially, and this is with all due respect because I love the man that I'm about to compare their coach to. Um, he's the Mike Leach of the NFL. He's always going for it on fourth down when he doesn't really need to. Well, there's a reason Mike Leach never coached in the NFL. In the NFL, you can't always go for it on fourth down because you got bigger, better defenses out there who'll sniff out your trick plays. And if you don't make it, you can really set yourself up for failure. So, from my standpoint and my thought process, I think the Chargers have all the talent in the world. They got a great defense. They got a great quarterback, good wide receivers. They dealt with injury issues at the wide receiver position, especially. That's hurt them in recent years. They can't decide if they want Austin Eckler or not, and that's frustrating as heck, too, from a fantasy perspective, because Austin Eckler is a dynamo. But that may be something to think about on the Dalvin Cook front if it were me, but that's just that. That's my thoughts on the Chargers. I think they should be a playoff team with the talent they have, but I don't know if they will be a playoff team because of own self-discretion.
It's, man, I want Herbert to do so well because I think he's above average. A top 15 quarterback. I do. The team's stinky.
He's got weapons.
I know.
The weapons are there. The team around him is good. It's they're self-sabotaging, Pete.
What was that team they lost? What was that game they lost last year? That was
a lot of them. They lost a lot of games last year.
I know, but it was the one where a guy came off the field just throwing his helmet straight down. Was it to the Vikings? Is that who they lost to?
Might have been, but they lost
like a crazy. It was like a crazy loss where they were up by like a crazy amount of points. It was an important game,
and they just gave it up.
Yeah, like they just blew it the whole second half. Just
it might have been the Raiders. I think the Raiders caught them. I think that was the Raiders. I could be wrong. But either way,
I don't feel like they're necessarily going the right direction either.
By the way, the Chargers are the number one seed in the mid division for me. Like, I don't know what the hell they're gonna do. They have all the talent to be good, but somehow find a way to be mediocre or bad every year, and I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it. Who do you got in the mid division? You got any hot ones in the mid division?
I was gonna say as like an overall team, I was gonna say the Falcons as one.
Wow. With all the moves they made,
but getting better. So this is coming from not that great to mid. Like this is still an upgrade in my opinion. I think the Patriots adding Juju was a pretty interesting move.
Yeah. I got the Pats in my mid division as well.
I had them with James Robinson and Ramondre Stevenson, and I feel like didn't they get a big draft pick?
Yeah, they got a corner from Oregon, who a lot of people thought was one of the best corners in the draft. They got him in the back end of the first round. A lot of people say that was a steal. I think Bill Belichick's going to do what Bill Belichick does, and I think he's going to make lemonade out of some lemons, and they're going to be competitive. I think the problem is that while Tom Brady is the GOAT and Bill Belichick is one of the best, if not the best coach of all time, and their tandem together and how many Super Bowls they won is probably never going to get matched again.
Yeah,
I think they greatly benefited from having a weak division for the majority of that run. And right now, they don't have that luxury anymore in New England because you have the Miami Dolphins who are legitimate. You have the Bills who are more than legitimate. They're a title contender. And you have the Jets who just had Aaron Rodgers, arguably one of the most, if not the most decorated quarterback remaining in the National Football League. That's now their starting quarterback. So it's no longer.
The AFC East is the strongest division in football right now.
Yeah, and I don't think it's close. I really don't. I think the NFC West is good. I think the NFC East obviously very good, but the AFC East with the talent that is in that division, and I mean all four of those teams could potentially push for the playoffs. And
Bills,
like I said,
Jets,
Bills,
assuming
Dolphins,
Rodgers
Jets.
pays off, yes. Patriots are always a threat as long as Bill's there, I think.
They figure it out. They find a way.
And the Dolphins, assuming Tua's head doesn't explode. Yes. If Tua gets injured again, I don't think. I mean, what happens? Mike White's going to carry.
I think it's
the
more.
playoffs?
I think it's more of a threat of Tua's head caving in rather than exploding.
Oh right, concave.
Yeah. Inwards. Speaking of the Broncos, by the way, just to tag it back, they're signing Frank Clark to bolster their defensive line.
That's big.
A nice little pickup for them. That's going to help them with their pass rush. They're still kind of trying to find their way after Von Miller left a couple years ago. In my bad section here, the midsection. I have the Indianapolis Colts.
God, I forgot they were a team.
Exactly. They got Anthony Richardson, the greatest athlete at quarterback ever tested at a combine in history, and that includes Cam Newton.
They also have Gardner Minshew.
The difference between Cam Newton and Anthony Richardson, who a lot of people compared him to, is that Cam Newton won in college. Okay, he led a team that was arguably 6-6 in roster talent to a national championship because he just put the team on his back and won a Heisman Trophy. Anthony Richardson went 7-5, and completed like 55% of his passes.
Good.
Like
I know it was not good.
He wasn't elite. He had flashes of crazy games against Utah, the first game of the year last year. He played well against Tennessee, even though they lost. But then he had just stinkers of games where you're just like, what is going on? He's a raw talent that's going to take a lot of work. And it's fortunate for the Indianapolis Colts that they have such a reliable and competitive veteran on their roster like Gardner Minshew. He's going to make it so they'll be competitive early in the season until Anthony Richardson gets his chance. But I don't think, especially if their running game is as bad as it was last year. I mean, from a fantasy perspective, how many people lost their shirts drafted Jonathan Taylor first last year?
They got Zach Moss from the Bills as a backup. I'm not super aware of the other two or three gentlemen here, but yeah, Jonathan Taylor. Very upset owners.
I was one of them, folks. Yeah. I was one of them. Very excited about having the number one pick. Very disappointed about 6 weeks into the season, realizing that pick was worthless. And I hate that. That may be harsh, Jonathan, Mr. Taylor, but it's true. And this mid team, by the way, the next one I have, they might get downgraded to bad after what they're doing today. It's the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings were my last mid team because I didn't really know what to expect. I thought they had an upside because the division was opened up, but they really hadn't made many changes. Adam Thielen leaves. Addison comes in. You get a rookie for an experienced vet. It's pretty much a wash for me. And they got Kirk Cousins, who's the most mediocre quarterback in the National Football League. You know, he's not bad, but he's not great either.
Even Steven.
I figured there's a chance they should win in the division, but there's a chance that they lose it just because somebody else wants it more. And with this news coming out today that they are releasing potentially or trading Dalvin Cook, unless they get something good back for him in terms of a running back or some other piece that can be used aggressively, I just don't see it. I don't understand the move. I don't get it. Dalvin Cook is top 3 in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns in the NFL since he came into the NFL. Just to put this in perspective. Like, that's what they're getting rid of. And it doesn't make any sense to me. So they're mid, borderline bad in terms of their offseason moves, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would think the Vikings. I'm not. I don't know, man. Like, what's exciting there right now? I don't know. I think they got
Justin Jefferson's the whole excitement.
They got. I think they got a new tight end, T.J. Hawkinson. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. But again, the ball's going to Jordan Jefferson, so I just or Justin.
And we all know how
Jefferson.
much they use Thielen as a security blanket. You lose him, you put in a guy like Addison, who can be good, but he's a rookie. You don't know how quickly he's going to adapt to the game. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
But
So
dang, they have a
the
nice
last
stadium.
topic. Yeah, they do. The last topic we got here is biggest changes, and this is player or personnel focused. And I think we're going to do this in an alternating fashion. I'm going to give you the first pick. Which player or NFL person or personnel had the biggest change this season? The most impactful change this season?
I think on the nose, Aaron Rodgers would be the most impact player.
Easily. Yep. I think you're right. I think you're 100% right.
I think that they go from it's like the range
White.
between
That's
the change the range between the changes is the most dramatic for sure.
Mike White. Are you kidding me?
Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty easily the biggest change that I can think of.
I think number 2 on my list was DeAndre Hopkins. I was like, anytime you have a guy that's that proficient at what he does and that prolific as a player, anytime he's available, it's going to be crazy. Now, where he ends up is the key. I mean, but you take let's just say some random stuff, okay?
Okay.
You take DeAndre Hopkins and you put him on the Cleveland Browns. Whoa.
Okay, they have Elijah Moore, Peoples Jones, Amari Cooper. So you're probably, who's he going to start over? Peoples Jones or Elijah Moore?
He's going to be the number 1 receiver on that team
over Amari Cooper as well. But dang, Amari Cooper's your number 2? That's not bad.
And who's your quarterback?
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. That Browns offense would then be with Nick Chubb in the backfield, by the way.
They still have
loaded, bro. Loaded.
Browns. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But he has that quarterback familiarity. I don't know if there's any charisma, anything that he'd like there. That's an option, I think. Obviously, we said he's meeting with the Titans. I don't really get it, but whatever. If you want to go catch passes from Ryan Tannehill, that's fine. Big Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis fan. Okay, sure.
Why does he? I think about his journey, like the Texans, the Cardinals. Imagine he goes to the Titans. Like, why? What are you doing to yourself?
I don't know.
There's so many
I don't get it. Teams. I don't get it at all. It doesn't make sense.
Anyone will meet with you. I promise.
Any team will sign you.
Any team will say, yeah,
they will make room for you. Yes. They will. Who's next on your list?
Dalvin Cook being dropped is a pretty big is a significant thing on my list. Not knowing where Ezekiel Elliott's going is a big thing on my list.
Oh, wait a minute. We're supposed to go back and forth here. Stop taking all the picks there, guy.
I've said enough then. Okay, so I'll just say those running backs not having teams, I think, is very interesting.
You believe this guy taking all the picks?
You take 2 then.
All right, I'll take 2.
Yeah, you take 2.
I had Ezekiel Elliott on mine too.
Okay.
I was going to talk about Zeke a little bit.
Talk about
him. No, that's okay. You took him.
I didn't.
He's yours now.
There was no.
I told you we were supposed to go back and forth on this.
Deep dive. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm sweating. It's hot. It's hot as ball bags in here, dude.
It's called controlled intensity. Okay, look into it. All right.
I'm leaking.
Number 3 in my power rankings, most impactful change is Sean Payton. Sean Payton is the 3rd most impactful change, I think, in the free agency / personnel mix-up of the NFL offseason. And here's why. I mentioned earlier in the show that the Kansas City Chiefs have won the AFC West for 7 consecutive years. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. And quite frankly, they're the favorites to win it again. If there is a team in the AFC West that can compete with them, that has a proven quarterback that has won a championship, it's the Denver Broncos. They have receivers. They have a running back. They have a good defense.
They now have a coach who knows how to put personnel and pieces together. If it meshes, if it works in Denver, they could challenge Kansas City for the division title.
Really?
If it doesn't, it could be just like last year. That's why they're both in my good and my bad list, because I don't know. It's so wide of a spectrum to me that I don't know what to expect. But let's put it this way. DeAndre Hopkins, what if he went to Denver? What if you gave Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, and DeAndre Hopkins, along with that running game that they got and that solid defense that they had? They were good last year too. They just couldn't score anything. The biggest problem for Denver last year is they couldn't score. Their defense was elite. I think there's a statistic out there that if they scored 2 touchdowns a game, they'd have won like 6 more games in the season. I think literally if they had just averaged 14 points. So their defense is very, very good. They just need the offense to get going and to work. And Sean Payton, I think, is the perfect hire to do that. We'll see what happens. He's the third most impactful change to me this year. And I'm going to take 2 because you took 2.
I think you should.
I'm going to take a running back you haven't said yet. DeAndre Swift was traded on draft night from the Detroit Lions to the Philadelphia Eagles. And gosh darn it. I said Darsh. I was going to say Darsh Gone it.
Gone it.
Anyway,
Continue.
You talk about a Philadelphia Eagles team that loses a Miles Sanders and gains DeAndre Swift when healthy. I think a better option than Miles Sanders with what they did in the draft. You know, the Philadelphia Bulldogs, Eagles, are doing things up there in Pennsylvania.
They're on my good list.
Yeah.
Even though it's like you got to imagine it's difficult to be where they were at last year and still go the right direction. I still feel like
they're a hell of a team. I like what their front office does. I think they're the favorites to win the NFC East again. They'll be the first repeat since I want to say 2004. It's been a while since there's been a repeat division winner in the NFC East. I think that they're in line to do it, barring injury. And I think they should be the favorites in the NFC over the Niners. A lot of people like the Niners. I think the road to the Super Bowl, the NFC goes through Philadelphia. What else do you got for me?
Well, now I'm really thinking about the Lions running back.
As a biggest mover?
No, I'm just sad.
Why? They got Gibbs from Alabama.
I know, man. It just I don't like change. Every year there's so much change, you know?
That's the beauty of it. It's new every year. It's exciting. Do you have any big movers? Any biggest personnel changes?
Just for the sake of hoping it's fun and hoping that this
I know what you're gonna say.
Dramatic.
I'm mad about it.
Are you mad about it?
Yeah, I'm gonna be.
I don't think you know what I'm gonna say.
I think I know what you're gonna say.
I don't think you know what I'm gonna say.
I think so.
For the sake of fun and new and wanting to see, someone do well coming into the league, just keeping eyes on the round draft pick. Bryce Young to the Panthers.
Really?
I want it to be fun, man. I want it to be exciting. I do. And they just, I'm excited. And I know it's not always going to translate from college to the pros. I'm excited to see what he can do. I really am. And I hope he does well. I hope he's good. Not the Panthers as a whole.
Can see over the offensive line.
Just Bryce Young in that situation. We'll see. It'll be cool. It'll be a fun little experiment.
We got to see him play live this past year, so that was fun.
They won. Yeah, he won that game for sure.
By a lot. Yep.
We saw a guy almost kill a guy. Brandon almost killed a guy.
Yeah,
that's a story for a different pod.
It isn't as safe as they make it out, folks. It's kind of a rough place.
It's not a friendly place. Tuscaloosa.
I got 2 more on my list. How many you got left on your list?
That's pretty much it for me.
Okay. Excuse me. Guys, sorry about this, folks. This allergy season is really taking its toll today. Got a guy I mentioned earlier in the podcast, Calvin Ridley. I think, you might say, well, he's not a mover. Yeah, he is. He didn't play at all last year.
That's why I
So
didn't
it's
call
like
him a big
he's coming
change because
back.
they already had him. Yeah.
But this is a change because he wasn't there last year, and he will be this year. Calvin Ridley's introduction into that offense puts them on another level. All right. They've added to their running back room. Now they've added to their wide receiver room. They've made strategic changes on the defense and the offense. They've drafted what they thought are the best personnel. If Trevor Lawrence continues to get better, the Jags are going to be really good. And I like that.
I want them to be good. I want them
as an option. I think they're going to be good. I don't think you wanting it. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think they're going to be good whether you want it or not. I think Peterson's got them rolling down there in Duval. So the last one is an obscure one. It's one I didn't think you would think of. Todd Monken. Now, some of you who are the uneducated masses out there might not know who Todd Monken is. Todd Monken is the former offensive coordinator for the Georgia Bulldogs. He is now the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Why is this a big deal? Well, the Ravens just paid an astronomical amount of money to Lamar Jackson to try and win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. It's going to be interesting to see if Todd Monken can put Lamar Jackson in a position to be successful at a high level. I think it's doable. They've got players around him. Odell's in the building. They drafted a wide receiver pretty high in the draft who was this allergies are killing me. They drafted the guy out of Houston, that wide receiver. So I think the Ravens offense could be very, very explosive this year. And it's going to have to be if it's going to keep up with the Cincinnati Bengals offense. I'll tell you that much. So those are my biggest movers of the year.
Let me ask you a question before we wrap this up. What's the biggest move that you see doing the least amount of having the least amount of impact?
So you're talking about biggest dud. Who's the biggest dud?
What's the biggest, I guess, advertised, marketed change that you think is like, yeah, but we don't think that's gonna do. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to call it a dud because I think people still do it, but like the biggest change that you think will be the least impactful.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you two. You ready for the first one? Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay.
Is that a big move?
It is in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it's
in Tampa Bay.
You know what? Fair enough. Fair enough.
We're going. Yeah, no. That's
it's like
not
the
gonna
reverse
be good
Jets.
for you.
That's what that is.
Yeah. What are you doing? Are you kidding me? Right?
It is in Tampa Bay. That's for sure.
and the second one for me, that's the reverse big move sweepstakes. I hate to do it, but I don't think DJ Moore is going to do jack squat for the Bears this year. I don't think the Bears are going to get out of their own way. They just don't get out of their own way, and until they prove me wrong, they find a way to lose. And it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a crapshoot this year in the NFC North with Rodgers not there, because all the teams that are up there that for years have found a way to lose because Aaron Rodgers is just good and they just do too much to try to beat him and end up stepping all over their own feet. I just think that division is the most interesting division. And I also think that if I had to put money on the team that's got the best, most consistent roster, most level-headed roster and want to, I think the Lions got a shot up there, dude.
I'm very excited for the Lions.
I think they're biting kneecaps, right? I think they're ready to go. I think Dan Campbell, the ultimate head coach.
Great coach. Really cool.
Just got those boys rolling. And I think that Jared Goff is going to prove a lot of people wrong this year. People forget Jared Goff went to a Super Bowl, right? With a very high-powered offense in the Rams. Yeah, they had a great defense, but that offense was scoring a lot of points too before Stafford got there. They just put Stafford in after they couldn't get past Brady. So people act like Jared Goff hasn't done anything. Jared Goff went to the damn Super Bowl.
I will say I do agree with the DJ Moore thing. It's definitely being advertised as like, look at our savior, WR1. I don't think he's that guy. If that makes sense. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's not going to carry the team on his back.
Right. I think DJ Moore is a wide receiver one in Carolina by default. They got rid of Robbie Anderson, and DJ Moore was the only viable receiver left.
He's great. He gets drafted. I'm just thinking in terms of fantasy because that's what I can,
Yeah.
He gets drafted every year. He's never left off the charts. I think he does well.
He's a top 20 wide receiver. He's a great flex option,
Yes.
wide receiver 2 option. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1 this year, especially not with the quarterback that he's got throwing him the football. Justin Fields makes his money and wins games with his feet. As much as he wants to say that he's a thrower, I mean, anybody who had him in fantasy last year was like, heck yeah, he just ran for a 75-yard touchdown. That's the move,
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. I think Chicago has a chance to be good if they get everything clicking and they don't hurt themselves.
It took a big swing.
Same thing with the Lions. So,
before one more thought, quick thought, 30 seconds. Thoughts on Texans this year?
one more time.
Quick 30 seconds, 45 seconds. What are your thoughts on the Texans?
2 years away.
Yeah.
They're 2 years away from being viable. They got a rookie quarterback. They got the best defensive player in the draft, arguably, in Will Anderson. We'll see how big of an impact he can make. There's just too many holes on that roster, man. Now, I think they're going to be more competitive this year. DeMeco Ryans is a competitive guy. And if anybody's going to turn that group around, I think a guy with his mindset has the best chance to do it. But they need another offseason of personnel changes to really revamp their roster. I think they got a chance to win. They might not have the number 1 pick this year or the number 2 pick, but I think they'll still be a top 10 pick, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But yeah, I think they're a couple years away.
Well, that is a good time, in my opinion, to wrap this up. We're right just under an hour and a half here. This would be episode 1A, if you will, of the BALLBAG podcast. I am your co-host, Peter, aka Not Ghost Stories, and we also have our other handsome co-host through the phone here.
Yeah, easy there.
Legit, aka
I'm your vice host, the arch host, as you will.
Yeah.
What's other synonyms for that?
Co-host.
Okay.
And again, this is episode 1A / episode 2 of the BALLBAG podcast. We will be doing this at least for the foreseeable future once a week and posting once a week to get in a good rhythm. So when the season does come up, we can be posting these out before like waiver wires go through and get locked in before Thursday night football. We don't have quite a schedule coming up yet. Again, we're trying to get into good habits right now as far as getting stuff out, and we're going to be working on podcast logos, cover art, things like that.